following program is intended for mature audiences.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And download every episode and more at basicallyasportshow.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg,
Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Zach is not with us again tonight.
On assignment.
He's on assignment, and I'm going to kind of explain how we got to where we're going here and ask some questions along the way. Zach is not here. He's covering cross country, which stops me at my first question. I get most sports. I don't like soccer, but I get it. I understand it. I get why people would find it appealing. But cross country, to me, and maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm missing the big picture here, but to me, cross country is let's gather a bunch of people on this side of the park and have them run to the other side of the park. Zach got promoted to this. In my mind,
quote-unquote promoted.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Zach. Now you get to watch a bunch of cross-country.
Right.
Enjoy.
And now, again, I don't know how he feels about it. We'll have to ask him. But in my mind, if I were covering high school football and I got quote-unquote promoted, it would be like me getting promoted to go cover soccer. I'd be like, this really isn't a promotion in my mind. This is more like a punishment, but okay. So anyway, that's why Zach's not here. So we got to that. Now, Mike and I were talking, as we were wont to do before the show. We talk via text usually a couple hours before the show to make sure everything's on schedule, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So we thought about, do we do another two-man show this week, or do we just hold off because it's the week of American Thanksgiving? We usually take this week off anyway. I said, but if you want to, you can join us for the football show tomorrow, to which Mike responded,
All of my teams suck. What am I going to talk about?
And I said, as do mine. My team suck as well. And I said, if you want, we could do a show tonight where we talk about let's replace our teams, and we'll try to go through and pick candidates based on a variety of factors. Mike is a fan of the Arizona Cardinals and the San Diego Chargers. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan and a reluctant, can't quit them, even though I try every damn year, Cleveland Browns fan. And an unusual circumstance here, usually with Mike and I, the Browns and the Chargers aren't good, but our other teams usually are, like the Packers and Cardinals are usually pretty good. This year, everybody sucks. So we just thought we'd have some fun and say, okay, let's say we can pick new teams. Who would we pick and why? Instead of just trying to throw it all together, we'll say, okay, based on this criteria, who would you choose? And then based on this criteria, who would you choose? Kind of like that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's start with in general. You want to pick a successful team that's let's say built to last right now. We'll pick two, one from each conference. Who do you go with?
Okay. Built to last.
Not necessarily built to last, but they're always going to be at least reasonably competitive. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right. In the AFC, if I was kind of doing all of this, probably the Steelers.
That's my pick as well.
They're always going to be, at least in the discussion. They haven't been lights out as of late, but they're always a contender in their division. Well, it helps that they get the Browns twice a year. But then again, you know what? The Bengals and the Ravens also get the Browns twice a year.
Yeah.
So there's that. They've got history. They've got history, a legacy of excellence, and they've got. I really like the ownership group, the Rooneys. I think they built a really solid. Kind of team culture there, and I like the fact that they've only had 3 coaches in their entire history.
Well, they had a bunch before Chuck Noll came in, and I want to say it was 1970. Before him, I don't know, I can't really tell you because they were the Cleveland Browns of the National Football League before Chuck Noll. I mean, they were horrible. I want to say they maybe only had 1 or 2 playoff appearances, if that, in their entire history until he came along. But since then, they've had 3 coaches. They had Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and now Mike Tomlin.
And so I would have to, and so just in terms of everything, but if you're looking for a successful team, that's not gonna, and as far as uniforms go, because that's where we're at.
Yeah, but we're not going to go there because that's going to be another part of our criteria.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, but yeah, I'm with you. I think with the Steelers, and a lot of people, you would say, well, the obvious choice right off the top of your head would be the Patriots. But here's the thing: yes, the Patriots have had an incredible run of success, but when you compare it historically to the Steelers, it's not even close. The Steelers have been. I'm probably wrong on this, but I want to say they have not had more than 3 losing seasons since 1970. That might be there might be a couple more than that, but I guarantee you it's not 10. In 46 years, they haven't had 10 losing seasons.
See, the thing about the Patriots is that the Patriots have, I think, like the Steelers, built a very successful team mentality. Like we talk about, like the Patriots system, the Patriots way, but that is entirely a result of Bill Belichick.
Right.
And, the Steelers have proven that, that came from the Rooneys. That was imposed from all the way top down. With the Patriots, it's a question, how much of it is Robert Kraft? How much of it is Bill Belichick? And I'm not saying that they're going to turn to dog crap when Belichick retires, but for the sake of this discussion right now, I'm not sure that, the Patriots are set up to succeed once Belichick and Brady finally finish their run.
Well, here's another way to look at it, too, with Belichick and the Patriots. Look at the success of his former assistant coaches. And again, I'm just doing it off the top of my head. There may be some that have done very well, but for the most part, you go, oh my goodness, it's a Belichick coordinator. We want this guy, and they don't do that great.
Josh McDaniel, I think, set the Broncos back 5 years.
Right. And speaking of the Browns, they brought in Romeo Cannell, who's a great guy, pretty good defensive coordinator, was a horrendous head coach. And I will say that none of them have done well, and somebody's going to go, what, you forgot about so and so, but
I can't think of anyone off the top.
For the most part, I think it's safe to say the majority of the Belichick coaching tree has not done well once it has stepped out from under his shadow. Okay, I just thought of a guy, Nick Saban. It did well everywhere, but you know what? He did well before he was with Belichick, if I remember right, because he left. He coached here at the University of Toledo, made them very good, then went to the Browns under Belichick in 94 or 3 or whatever. So Saban is technically a Belichick disciple, but not exactly. So if you want to throw him in there, but I think he had success before Bill Belichick. But yeah, I'm with you. The Steelers would be my choice as well because they're just a great organization. I mean, they're always competitive. They've got a system in place that works, and 3 head coaches in 46 years. That's you're averaging almost 15 years of head coach at that point. That's great. Yeah. So
and I think that speaks to the team's willingness to not panic, because what is the one thing that we've ragged on the Browns above all else, and it's that they keep hitting the reset button. They bring in a new coach or a new GM. Things go poorly for a season or two, and suddenly they've fired everyone.
Yep.
And that's not how you do things. You've got to give people time. Like, who was the guy? I forget the guy's name, but the coach who, the coach they had a few seasons back, who was actually really excited to be with the Browns. Like, it was his dream job to coach the Browns.
Oh God, I don't remember, man. I can't even remember all the coaches. I know who you're talking about, though.
Yeah, and he had a decent run. Nothing groundbreaking, but they showed some small signs of improvement, but they still kind of sucked, so they fired him. And that's never going to get you anywhere. You've got to, maybe you've got to let a management and a coaching team, you've got to give them a fair shot before you can them. And just firing them after 1 or 2 bad years is not doing them any favors. It's not doing you any favors. But with the Steelers, they say, this is our guy. This is the coach we believe in. And sure, there's going to be a bad season or 2 here or there, but we're not going to panic. We're going to let him do what he needs to do.
And that's why they have 6 Super Bowl titles. I think it might be more.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's only 6, but
yeah, it's 6.
But but going back to the Browns and the panicking thing, I think what happened was that, and this happened, it kind of became the prevalent school of thought in the early 2000s, that you were seeing teams do it. You could turn a team around in 2 to 3 years. And that's, and it happened, and it's possible, but that's when you're looking at a team that had already been established. the Browns were an expansion team, and to have an unreasonable expectation of, okay, we're going to bring in the first coach, Chris Palmer, and in 3 years the Browns are going to be good, that's ridiculous. But you also had the success of Carolina and Jacksonville before them, but the system was so stacked in favor of those two teams when they came into the league. That's why they were successful right out of the gate. I mean, the Panthers went 9-7 in their first year. And so they redid the expansion draft, and when it came around for the Browns and then later the Texans, it wasn't nearly as easy.
Well, there was there was that one year, I think, where it ended up being Patriots Packers in the Super Bowl. That was almost Panthers Jaguars on their second season each.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course they kind of reevaluated and redid the rules for the expansion draft and all that, but yeah, there were teams that were turning it around in 2 to 3 years back then, but they weren't coming from the same place the Browns were, and I think that was part of the problem. And then it just started this perpetual cycle of, okay, after 2 years, nothing's happening, we've got to start over again and over and over and over, and here we are on reset, I'm going to say at least number 9 at this point. It might be more, it might be less, but I'm going to go with, I think it's about the 9th time they've just hit the button and said we're going to start over. And it's just, what are you going to, you've got to let it go and start to show some results at some point. I'm hoping maybe this is the time, because I was reading a thing the other day. They have just all these draft picks, stocked up. They've got a ton of them. They've got $120 million in cap space. They're in a position where they could improve if they stick to the plan and if they make good draft picks, et cetera, et cetera. But that's where they're at. So, yeah, I'm with you. To go back to the original point, I'm with you. I'm taking the Steelers, because if that's, you want a team that's going to be competitive every year, that's the one you want to go with in the AFC. I agree completely. So now we look at the NFC.
All right, NFC, same criteria. It's
a little tougher in the NFC.
It is. In terms of kind of a well-oiled machine, let's see.
I have one in mind. Go ahead.
I would probably say, and I know this is going to sound weird, given some of what we talked about earlier, I'm going to go with the Packers.
Oh, me too.
Well, they're already your team.
Right, I was going to say, I will stay right where I'm at, because, again, they've been pretty consistent, pretty solid for about 20-some-odd years now. Yeah, I'm with you, the Packers. I think if I had a second choice, oh, man, that's the thing. I don't know any other team. I mean, can you think of anybody? The Giants, maybe. I mean, they're pretty reasonably consistent.
The Giants were going to be my second choice, but I couldn't save them because of Eli Manning, so I had to. So I couldn't give them props. But yeah, the Giants probably. The problem is, and then there's another team there that is at least always in the conversation, and that's the Cowboys. But the problem with the Cowboys is that, and this is a problem that I still don't think they're over, even if Dak Prescott's setting the league on fire, is that as a Cowboys fan, you've always got to be a bit unsure of things are going pretty good. When's Jerry Jones going to stick his nose into this thing and mess it all up? And that's the problem. If the Rooneys, with the Maras in New York,
they stay out of the way.
They stay out of the way. Yeah, you don't. You rarely ever really hear of them. They hire people who know how to build football teams, and then the Cowboys are almost the exact opposite of that. And so, yeah, the Cowboys are more often competitive than they're not, and even now they seem to have a brighter future than they perhaps did. But you're never going to be sure, well, when's Jerry Jones going to come in and do something stupid to mess it all up? Because he very well could do that. That's sort of what he does.
Yeah, he's too much of an X factor. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I would stay right where I'm at with the Packers. If my second choice would probably, like you, be the Giants. Wow, I'm trying to think. It's funny because really in the NFC, who else is there? I tell you what, here's what I think, too, and I might be way off base on this, but I think once they get settled in Los Angeles, I think you're going to see the Rams kind of get into a groove and be a pretty good, consistent team, because I think Stan Kroenke's a good owner. He's just got to let this whole thing with Jeff Fisher work itself out. I don't think he wants to make too many big changes while they're still in flux like this. But I think once things settle down, I think the Rams might be a team that might be all right, too. I don't know. I could be way off base on that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at Kroenke's other teams, the Avalanche and the Nuggets have, they've never they really haven't lit the world on fire lately, but they're always competently run, and you can usually count on them for a playoff spot or two. So and I see the Rams definitely improving once they kind of get over this whole Fisher thing. But God, they need to get over this whole Fisher thing because he doesn't know what he's doing.
Did you see that they finally played Jared Goff yesterday?
Yeah.
I got news for you, folks. He's not the answer.
I didn't see the game, but I checked out his stats afterwards, and yeesh.
Yeah, he's not the answer. He was, I would say, marginally better than Case Keenum, because I don't think he had the same turnovers and stuff, but nothing there that made me think.
Oh, just put Mannion in. Who cares?
That's
at this
what
point,
I keep saying.
just be like, look, we screwed up on Goff. We're going to call a mulligan on that one. Case of Keenum, so we're just going to play Sean Mannion until something better comes around.
Well, in the preseason, Mannion was their best quarterback. Again, now you've got to take into consideration he was always playing against second-team defenses and stuff, but he looked like the guy that knew what he was doing out there. Mm-hmm. But Zach and I have been over this a million times. I think we've been over it on this show a million times. When you've got the number one overall draft pick, you cannot go to your third-string guy and go, this is our guy, Sean Mannion, because people, you could. I think the fans would be fine with it, but oh my God, does it make the Rams look like a bunch of blithering idiots if they do that? So that's why they won't do it.
I think Stan Kroenke needs to, and I know this kind of runs contrary to what I said about Jerry Jones. I think Kroenke kind of needs to step in and be like, all right, Jeff Fisher, just enough.
Well, yeah, you bring up the Rooneys and the Maras. I mean, they stay out of the way, but when it's necessary, they will step in. But that the organizations are so well run that rare is the time where they need to step in, because they never put themselves in a position where they have to step in. They always hire the right people, it seems like.
They need to just I know they traded a lot for Goff, but they picked him over Wentz based on the dumbest of old school football logic of, well, Wentz looks like he's the superior quarterback in every way, but he went to North Dakota State, so who cares?
Yeah.
Which is, again, that's Jeff Fisher thinking it's 20 years ago.
Well, and not only that, but you look at a guy, Tony Romo went to Eastern Illinois. I don't know if that's a Division I school or not, but yeah, it was horrible thinking, because everybody said Wentz is the prototypical guy. He ran the pro-style offense. He's got the size, the arm, the mentality, the whole bit. Goff is out of a gimmicky offense at Cal. And I don't know, maybe they thought, hey, Aaron Rodgers went to Cal, and he turned out pretty good. We'll go with this guy. I really don't know what their thinking was, but I would have taken Wentz every time.
Ask Marcus Mariota how transitioning from a gimmick offense to the NFL works out for you.
Yeah,
right? So,
well, he's actually improving, but it's taken a while, and he's still not there yet. You know what I mean?
It's taken a while, and honestly, I think he's got better coaches than Goff does in LA at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw any of Hard Knocks, but if I were an LA Rams fan, I would have been like, oh my God, we've got to get rid of this bunch of clowns. I'll just say this. Chris Weinke is their quarterback's coach. And
the Rams?
With the Rams, yeah. Chris Weinke.
Isn't he the guy who was at Florida State for 7 years?
Right. he was an okay college quarterback, but of course he was, because he was 27 freaking years old and he was playing there against a bunch of 20-year-olds. Of course he's going to be okay.
How did he pull that up? Did he just keep failing classes?
No, what happened was, out of high school, I think he had a scholarship offer at Florida State, and he also had a chance to play baseball, so he played in the Jays organization, of all teams, believe it or not. And played baseball for, I want to say, 4 or 5 years. I actually covered him when he played for the Syracuse Chiefs. And the joke about Chris Weinke was he has a Teflon glove. Nothing will stick to it. He was a horrible fielder. And he hit about 220, and it was like, okay, baseball's not in your future. And then he left baseball, Went back. Florida State offered him the same scholarship, I believe, and he played a couple years there, maybe just a year. I don't know, but that's how he was there at age 27, was because of that. But you guys used to, and I don't know if you ever made the big club or not, but you guys used to have a pitcher named Paul Spoljaric. He was a left-hander.
Doesn't ring a bell.
I think he was with the Jays for maybe a season or two, like one of those, back end of the bullpen guys that you don't see much of. Anyway, there was a night the Chiefs were playing. I don't remember who it was, but Spoljaric was pitching. They hit a foul pop-up to Winky. He dropped it, and 3 runs scored. Okay, that's how bad he booted this play. Okay,
that kind of sounds like a softball team I was on not too long ago.
Now think about this for a second, though. This is a pop-up that was probably 20 feet behind first base, and 3 runs scored because he dropped it. I mean, I'd never seen a guy kick a play as badly as he did. Well, for some reason, the idiot scorekeeper, the official scorer, a guy named Joel Marinas, I still remember his name, called it a hit. And everybody in the world, a guy that knows nothing about baseball, would have said, "Yep, that's an error." So after the game, Paul Spoljaric comes up and he goes, he goes and he tries to get the scorer to change it. Because, I mean, you got to remember, these are the minor leagues, and 3 earned runs is going to make a guy look bad. And he's like, those aren't earned runs, and it's going to, hurt my chances, blah, blah, blah. And he's asking all around, and he comes up and he starts talking to me and this buddy I was with, and he's like, I don't believe it, man. He goes, they called that an error. And he goes, besides, it's fucking Winky. He already knew. He's like, you knew it was an error before the ball ever even got to him. And I just thought it was funny. And like I said, they called him Teflon Glove because nothing would stick to it. But, yeah, that was Chris Winky. Anyway, I don't know how the hell I sidetracked this all the way down to that.
I'm always up for some Syracuse Sky Chief discussions.
But, yeah, that's how Winky ended up playing at, like, age 20. Oh, I remember. He's the quarterback's coach of the Rams, which I think that in and of itself is a problem. I mean,
you couldn't – Stan? You couldn't spring for, Ryan Leaf? Jesus.
But, yeah, anyway, So, yeah, we both agree then we'd probably go with Steelers and Packers based on, like, overall appeal.
Yeah.
I guess. Okay.
Just in terms of well-run organizations, like, I think those two teams have proven that, they might have a bad season here or there, but they are capable of turning it around quickly when they need to, and they're capable of maintaining sort of a winning culture long term, like something that can overcome a bad season here or there.
I agree. Now we'll go to our next criteria, okay?
Okay.
Not a team that's contending right now, but a team that you look at and go, they've got a bright future.
Okay, so
now, and we'll do AFC, NFC again. So who you like, the not a contender today, but you could see them being good in the next 2 to 3 years. Who do you like?
Well, this is going to be an interesting answer because I think I'm a year or two behind the answer to this question, but I'm going to go with my gut instinct anyway, and it's going to be sacrilege as a Chargers fan, but I'd go with the Raiders.
Yeah, that's a good one.
They're turning things around. Worst case scenario for them, they end up as a tenant in Los Angeles for Stan Kroenke, which honestly isn't a bad place to be.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm sure obviously you'd rather own your own building, but, being and I'm sure the league's going to tell Kroenke to play nice for the lease. So, with that in a state-of-the-art stadium in the second biggest media market in the U.S., like, that's not a bad place to find yourself. So stability on that front's good. They've got, again, the history. I think Al Davis, I've always hated the Raiders as a Chargers fan, but I think Al Davis himself is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, so Al Davis is cool. So you got that history at play. And they're, an original AFL team, which is always a plus. I think they're, I think they're an easy choice despite my Chargers fandom. Like, if I wasn't a Chargers fandom, or if I just made the decision to make a clean break, the Raiders would be an easy option to go with.
If it were me, and I'm kind of like you, maybe I don't even know if this team really qualifies under the criteria I set, but if I wanted to go with a team that reminded me most of the 80s Cleveland Browns, I'd pick the Kansas City Chiefs. Always pretty good, never quite good enough. But I think that they've been good for a few years, so they really don't fit my criteria. So this is going to come as a real shocker to people that listen to basically a football show. I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans.
Irrational confidence.
My irrational confidence Tennessee Titans. There you go. Finally, I think that they're headed in the right direction. I'm not sure if I'm sold on Mariota yet, but he's showing signs of improvement. They've got a good young running back in Derrick Henry, and they're 5-5 this year, which I would have never guessed in a million years they'd be that good.
I was expecting them to challenge the Browns for worst team in the league.
Me too. Yeah,
they're not exactly setting the world on fire, but they're not bad by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, so that I would probably say the Titans would be my pick. So, let me think here in the NFC. I'm trying to. You go ahead because I've got to think here. Who is up and coming? Because the NFC, it's like somebody's up and coming every year. You know?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. In the NFC, actually, okay. Based just on that criteria, I would say, my new adopted, place of residence, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Not Mario. Jameis Winston seems like he's finally, well, I don't say finally. He's only in his second year, so it's not like this has been a huge project in the making. But he's proven that he gets it, quote unquote. And I think, for all the problems that you could legitimately lay at the Bucs' feet the past 2 seasons, I don't think very much of it has been his fault,
right, so
to say.
Yeah.
So at the very least, they've got a solid quarterback, and if you've got a solid number one quarterback going forward in the NFL, that's like 50% of the problem solved, right?
Yeah,
there.
You're halfway home at that point. You really are.
And so, yeah, I would go with him. I would go with the Bucs. My only reservation, and again, this kind of touches on what's going to be another topic, is, they just look dreadful. Those uniforms are terrible.
They got to change those after 5 years, right? They're not going to stick with those things.
I mean, they're absolutely awful, and so that's going to be my hesitancy of the Bucs is based solely on that. But I think they're a good up and coming team, and I wouldn't have a problem rooting for them, kind of going forward. Out of maybe just because I've been watching them a lot this season, because they are the team that is on TV. But I like what I see, trending in the right direction. Definitely. I still think their coach is using a made up name. It's Dirk Cutter or something like that. Like, I'm not even sure what it is. It's like Dirk Cutter. I'm like, that's not a real name. No. So the coach might be in witness protection, but I would go with the Bucs.
My pick for the NFC, and this is going to be weird because I don't really care for the teams from this city, but I'm going to go back to the guy we were just talking about a little bit ago, Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles. Mm-hmm. I think that he's going to be a good quarterback, and I think they're headed in the right direction. But I'm also a little bit torn because I also want to go back, and again, maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm just nostalgic because they're finally back in L.A., but I really think the Rams are going to be something when everything gets turned around. And if they go back to those blue and white uniforms, that's it. I'm coming home to Los Angeles, baby. But
I think we'll definitely see them as throwbacks at the very least. If not, I don't see them getting the full-time uniform nod because
I don't know.
Strong.
Everything like at the stadium, it's all blue and white, none of the gold. No, I don't know. That might be because of the St. Louis, whatever that gold is from the St. Louis uniforms, and they don't want to confuse things because it would clash off if they use the old, LA Rams gold with what they're using on the field, and they don't want to use the St. Louis gold in their color scheme at home because, that's St. Louis. So maybe that's just as simple as that. Maybe there's nothing more to it than that. And if you want to apply Occam's razor, that's probably exactly why it's all blue and white. It has nothing to do with like some secret plan to come back with the blue and whites, but a person can hope is the way I look at it. But I think the Bucs are a great choice. like I said, I like the Eagles as an up-and-comer, and I think the Rams are going to be okay. So I'm gonna. If I got to make one pick, I'm going to say the Rams. That would be my pick at this point.
That's definitely a good choice. They'd probably be number 2 on my list on the condition that Jeff Fisher gets fired as soon as his contract allows him to be.
Everything is contingent on that. I think that even Rams fans would agree with that. Now, before we get to the big one, the uniform one real quick last criteria here, and then we'll move on to the uniforms.
Okay.
Team with the fan base you wouldn't mind being a part of.
Ooh.
This is an easy one for me, for the AFC at least.
All right. Well, let me think. Well, that immediately takes out the Patriots because Boston has just no. I don't want anything to do with you people. Let's see. I don't even think the Dolphins have a fan base as such.
Yeah, not really. Not what it should be, anyway.
This is interesting because the Jets. I don't know. Like the Jets seem like they have a fun fan base, but then again, I'm also kind of terrified that they're all crazy New Yorkers. So
right.
Let's see. Oh, okay. I'd go with the Raiders again. Like, I don't know how much of that whole terrifying Raiders fan base thing is mystique versus reality. Like, how crazy are they? I don't know. But that, was it Sunday or Monday night game against the Broncos in their stadium.
Sunday nighter, I think.
Sunday nighter. Yeah, that was just a really fun game, really fun looking atmosphere. And on one hand, look, I'm being perfectly honest, Greg, the one thing that keeping me from from ever embracing the Browns in any way is the dog pound. But at the same time, I don't want a team like, say, the Dolphins, where like they don't even have any sort of fan base that's recognizable. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I think the Raiders strike a really nice balance where what Raiders Nation is, but at the same time, it's at the same time, I don't think it's like an embarrassment on the levels of, say, the dog pound or
the dog pound.
Or Philadelphia,
you have heard me for 4 years now say I wish they would stop letting the dog pound represent Cleveland Browns fans. Mm-hmm. That's not us. It's not. I've said that all along. It's just not us. They're a bunch of, I don't know what they are exactly, but I know that I don't want to be part of them. I'll say that. Mm-hmm. For me in the AFC, it came down to 3 teams. The Raiders are one of them. I agree with you 100% on that one. Actually, 4. The Broncos have great fans, but they're the Broncos. I can't. That's just a bridge too far for me. I can't do it.
I can't do that. Like as a Chargers fan, I'll go with the heresy and say the Raiders for a few of these answers, but the Broncos I won't touch.
Right, and that brought it down to 2 teams, and Buffalo has a great fan base, but they're a little too Cleveland-esque for my liking. Especially when you see some of the stuff they get caught doing in the parking lot. So at the end of the day, if I had to pick a team based on fan base alone in the AFC, I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs. Die-hard fans, they show up all the time. They don't seem to cause any trouble. Maybe they do, I don't know. But they seem like they've got a really good fan base. Arrowhead's one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL, and they show up and support their guys. So that would be my choice.
Not a bad choice at all.
Yeah. NFC, wow.
Well, this is where the Eagles get disqualified.
Yeah, same with me. I've got one. I'm going to go off the board with one that'll surprise you, but go ahead. I think you'll be surprised by my pick.
All right.
Watch, you'll come out and say the exact same team. Here we go. Okay.
Honestly, I'm going to steal your answer from the last one. I'm going to go with the LA Rams.
Okay.
I just thought it was really cool how they all sort of came together over the past year or so, kind of watching that saga of the team move back
Right.
to LA, and I just thought it was really cool seeing those rallies where you just saw, like, this is a team that hasn't been in LA for 20 years?
Yeah. 20 years, right. Yeah.
And they came, and yet, when it looked like it was a very real possibility that the Rams would be coming back, they came out in droves to support their team, to say, not only do we want we don't want just the NFL, we want the Rams. And I thought that was a really strong showing on their part. And so, yeah, the NFC, I'd go with the Rams.
Okay. That's a good choice, and I agree with all your reasoning. You know who I'm going to pick? The New Orleans Saints.
Really?
Oh, my God. That's got to be a blast, right? I mean, it just has to be. I mean, they look like they have fun. I think they're pretty loyal, too. I think they show up, win or lose with that team. And it's New Orleans, and I don't drink or anything anymore, but it sure looks like they have a lot of fun to me. And I think they'd be a good group.
Yeah, but then you've got to engage with Hedley Lamar in the NFL's most rivalry.
The little rivalry that could.
Yeah, I mean, suddenly Falcons Saints becomes Bears Packers, right? Where it's
right. Speaking of that rivalry, though, whatever happened to Blue Sky? Remember him? He was the Saints guy. He was a good poster, and he just disappeared.
I have no idea where he went to.
Yeah, me either. He was a good guy. I always liked him. And I liked him, too, because he was older than me. And I like anybody on those boards that's older than I am. There's like 3 of them, I think. Well, 2 now because he's gone. But, yeah, I'd go with the Saints, I think. Or my other choice was the Detroit Lions, just because they need something, right? Somebody's got to be a Lions fan. Might as well be me. But, yeah. And finally, we'll wrap up this part of it with the big one, the most important one, based on uniforms. And we'll go 2 ways on this. Current uniforms and uniform from any era that you want.
Okay.
So, all right. So we'll go first with just current uniforms in each conference.
Well, this is where you're finally going to win me over to the Kansas City Chiefs. I had them and the Raiders tied in terms of current uniforms.
Yeah.
But I gave the edge to the Chiefs based on that AFL memorial patch for Lamar Hunt.
Okay.
I love me some old school AFL.
Yeah, me too.
And I think, that Lamar Hunt patch, it's perfect. It's perfect. Granted, the Raiders, have been adding the AFL logo into their end zones as of late. I guess purely just to spite the rest of the league. But and that's a big reason why the Raiders are my choice for a couple of these categories. But in terms of the uniforms, that's where the Chiefs stuck theirs. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs as far as uniforms go in the AFC.
I'm with you on that, and I picked the Chiefs because I'm with you with the Raiders too. It's a very tough call because they are just 2 fantastic looks. Mm-hmm. But with the Chiefs, in my book, it's because they were the team that made me realize I was a uniform geek all the way back when I was a kid, because I had a Chiefs jacket, Chiefs pajamas, 9-year-old me had Chiefs pajamas, and I thought about it, and the whole reason why is because I liked their uniforms. Simple as that. I had no connection to the Chiefs, so I'm going to go with the Chiefs, too. That would be my pick based on uniforms alone. There's some other fine choices, like the Steelers. Got the Colts in there. Raiders, obviously. I think if the Jets would fix their green, they'd be a fine choice. But that'll be our next category. So that's me for the AFC. We're both on the Chiefs. NFC, who would you like? Uniforms, based on uniforms alone.
Current uniforms in the NFC. Just think on that. See, so probably the Carolina Panthers.
Really?
Okay. I've always liked the Panthers uniforms. I think they look good. I think they've got a good color balance. There are a few things I would tweak. I would drop their white pants completely and just have them wear silver pants both home and away.
Yeah, that would look pretty good. I think you're right.
And I definitely like their original logo and not the ever so slightly tweaked version they use now.
Yeah.
I think the original logo is just a bit better. So their current look isn't perfect, really, but I think it's a really nice looking uniform in its own right, and it's remained almost unchanged since their inaugural season, and I think that's so rare for a modern expansion team like them. Like you look at who came into the league at the same time. The Jaguars and the Panthers both got it right on their first try, uniform wise.
Yes, they did.
And the Panthers said, "All right, we got it right. This is our look. We're going to stick with it." And it's definitely a contemporary look. It's got some modern flares, like the tapered helmet and pants stripes, but overall, it's still a very traditional uniform.
Yep.
I think it hits that balance perfectly. Good logo, good colors. And they realized they stuck with it, whereas the Jaguars had almost the exact same type of uniform, a perfect balance of traditional and modern, good colors, good logos, and then they proceeded to make their uniform worse with every single change they made.
They did, man. They tweaked it to death, the original uniform, then finally said, screw it, we're just going to botch it completely, and went to what they wear now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I got to give it to the Panthers, because that's a team, as far as uniforms go, they're like, no, this is our look. We are going to run with it.
For me in the NFC, obviously my first choice would be the Packers, but since I'm switching teams here, I'm going to go with, and this is a tough call for me, if I could guarantee that they would go to all white on the road, it would be the Chicago Bears in a walk. I love their home uniforms. I like the navy blue pants, but I think there's a lot of games where if they went all white, like in a traditional matchup against the Packers, Bears on the road have got to be in all white, but that would be my choice. But since they won't do that, I'm going to go with, believe it or not, the New York Football Giants. I love the simplicity of that look, and I have no issue with the red numbers and stripes on the road jersey, so that would be my pick for uniforms.
Not at all. Not at all. When people complain about those on when people complain about the Giants uniforms, I'm like, but yes, it's inconsistent, but it still looks fantastic. So I'm not seeing the issue. But
yeah, not only that, but it's been that way for a very, very long time. I mean, there was a stretch there in the 80s and early 90s where they wore the other stuff, but for the most part, they've always had the red numbers on the white jerseys, and it's always been a switch like that. But I just love the look. I love the helmet, and that would be my choice. So
I would say,
or the 49ers. Actually, I forgot about the Niners, but I like the Giants better.
The 49ers lose out to me just a bit because I don't like their stupid slanted sleeve stripes that tried to fix a problem but ended up making it worse.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why they haven't rectified that. But good answer. Good answer. No, I had something I was going to say, but okay. Yeah, the 80s and 90s look where they added, the blue and the red, and they tried to fix that inconsistency. To me, those Giants uniforms from the 80s and early 90s are they are the quintessential generic football uniform to me.
Oh my God, yes.
Like people say the current look is generic. And no, the current look to me is professional. The Giants' current look to me is professional, and it looks like an NFL quality uniform for the New York Giants. But the LT era Giants look, that to me looks like we just went to a uniform supplier warehouse, and we pulled off the most generic red, white, and blue look off the rack.
Well, when the uniforms really, if you took away the helmets, and I mean the colors, I think were slightly different, but they were a dead ringer for the Buffalo Bills for all intents and purposes, really.
And then they played them in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. It was just total. I mean, right down to just Giants on the helmet, just Giants with an underlying.
Honestly, I've never liked that ward mark, and I'm kind of disappointed that they've kept it even after ditching that logo. I think that ward mark works a lot better for the University of Illinois' Fighting Illy.
Yeah,
it does.
It really does. I agree. It works better for them all across the board. Okay.
Yeah, when I see that helmet, I'm just like, oh, that's a good University of Illinois helmet. I see that for the Giants, and I'm like, oh, so you just spelt your name out. Okay.
Yeah. And finally, any uniform from any era.
All right.
We'll go AFC first.
Oh, that's tough because
There's a
the
lot
Chargers.
Yeah.
The Chargers throwback. The Chargers have like 3 different sets of throwbacks they could go with and look fantastic.
Right. Yeah.
But for the sake of discussion, assuming I'm leaving the Chargers in the AFC, Dolphins.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. Yeah. Me too, I think. Dolphins or how about this? Any era, right? How about the Houston Oilers for the Titans? Yeah.
See, here's the thing. If the Tennessee Titans said, screw it, we're going to be the Tennessee Oilers, and they just went back to the Houston Oilers look, that'd be awesome.
I'd be okay with that. And I like the current Titans uniforms for the most part. There's elements I don't like the monochrome shit, but yeah, I think when you see those Dolphins throwbacks, oh my God, I forgot how good those things looked from back. I was around when they wore those, but yeah, I went to Dolphins all the way on that one. Easy choice. And there's a lot of good choices there, like the Chargers. See, I could have taken the Chargers, but that Dolphins uniform just so good. And the NFC, wow, that's a tough one too. I think. I know. Well, I don't know. Go ahead. What do you think in the NFC? Any uniform, any era?
Oh, any uniform, any era in the NFC. I'm going for the LA Rams.
Okay.
And I know it's going to break your heart, Greg, but it's not the blue and white.
I know.
It's the blue and athletic gold. I think that I've always loved that look. And the sooner the Rams just say we're not going to be stupid anymore and go back to it, the better. Yeah, it's got to be the LA Rams.
For me, as much as I like the Rams blue and whites, and I do love them, I think they're great, but if I had to pick a team based on any era of any uniform, I'm going to go with the Saints back when they had the sleeve stripes and the gold pants, and I don't remember, it's kind of varied over the years, so I don't know the exact year, but it was a throwback they wore, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago. That era of the Saints, I think, is just one of the best uniforms I've ever seen. Loved it. Or
that old brassy gold.
Yeah, or how about this one that I think one that we both kind of forgot about until just now. How about the Washington Redskins in those 70th anniversary uniforms?
Oh, those are nice.
Yeah, those are great, weren't they?
Or just spitballing ideas out. The Atlanta Falcons, if they're, honestly, I think the Atlanta Falcons. There are a few throwbacks of theirs that I like. So, but yeah.
How about the Cardinals? The old Well, I guess you're switching up, but how about the Cardinals' old look?
Oh, definitely. My ideal Cardinals uniforms would just be like that old look with the new logo, but
yeah. Why? I don't know why people can't. You know what? Okay, our next show is going to be we're going to be the sports uniform czars, and we're going to fix everything that's wrong with all of sports uniforms in the Big Four. Our next get away from it all topic. So there you have it. We've picked all of our teams. I think we have pretty good reasons, and some of our picks may surprise some people. I don't think anybody would have guessed that I would have gone with the Pittsburgh Steelers in anything, but I did. And you and the Raiders, come on, yeah. With that, we are going to call it a night. You know where to find us on Twitter at Basically Sports. You can go to the website, basicallyasportshow.com, subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and YouTube, and find us on Facebook. And with that, we'll see you next time.
Later.